Hello, everyone. Welcome back to When Shooting's Life podcast. I'm your host, Kue Lee, and today I have Shon McIntyre, Colin Maxon, and Brian Cook. The topic for this episode will be about being a parent doing shooting sport with their kids. How's it going, guys?
Doing great.
Good.
How
Awesome,
are
man.
you?
Thanks for having us, Cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks for joining me tonight. So before we start this podcast, why don't you guys introduce yourself? Any one of you could start.
So I'm Colin Maxon, and I've been shooting USPSA since 2018, primarily down here in Pine Island. I'm from Rochester, Minnesota, and my son Leo, who is now 9, started at 7.
I'm Shon McIntyre. I have a son, Levi. We've been shooting USPSA, I guess, for about 3, maybe going on 4 years now. Together, we shoot mostly at Oakdale, but we go down to Pine Island too and hit a few other matches around.
And Brian Cook. I've been shooting for under 2 years. Just got my daughter started. She's 15 years old. She started about 8 months ago. So we primarily shoot at Forest Lake.
All right. What division does your kid shoot, Colin?
Right now, Leo is shooting single stack minor,
Okay.
and I can explain on why and stuff probably later on.
Yeah. What about you, Shon? What does your son shoot?
Mainly carry optics. He's done some limited optics and PCC as well, but mainly carry optics.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, mine shoots mainly PCC and then open when she does two gun.
Okay, nice, nice. All right, let's answer our first question. So our first question is, why shoot? Excuse me, why shooting and not other sports? Anyone can start.
Well, my daughter actually does multiple sports. She just recently, as I said, got into shooting, but she's done karate and she's also currently active in gymnastics.
So,
Go ahead, Colin. I'm sorry.
sorry, Brian, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Um, so for us, it's kind of I grew up playing kind of what you would call traditional sports, baseball and that kind of stuff, and it's changed so much from when I was little. It's gotten away from little league games to there's a lot of travel involved now, and with 4 kids, my wife and I we didn't want to constantly be in separate places all the time, never really being able to watch all of our kids at sports. So with how much I love the shooting USPSA, I don't plan on getting out of it anytime soon. It was like, well, this is something that we could all do as a family. Some of the places you travel for major matches can offer you maybe vacations that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise, and it's you're around a lot of good like-minded people, and kind of the junior part of it is also growing. So to us, it just kind of made sense to try and maybe encourage and gear the kids towards all of us shooting together. So it's just something we can all participate in.
Yeah, Levi was never interested in any other sports, really. I mean, like Colin, I grew up playing all kinds of sports and even rodeoed for quite some time, and he just wasn't interested in that. And so I had him shooting when he was real young, hunting and doing different things like that. And it was something when we were introduced to the USPSA, it was something that we could do together, and you can do it till you're old. And so
Right.
just thought it was a great deal, and I like the people, and great
Yeah.
people to be around, great culture, I thought.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's a requirement for your kids to know how to operate a firearm in life or for like just life in general?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So like, in your opinion, do you think it's a requirement for your kids to know how to operate a firearm? Like
I I
whether it's for self-defense, hunting. So,
I do definitely,
okay.
yes. I think there's a very basic general requirement of understanding what it is and how just the operation of a firearm is, I think, definitely something that I view should be required.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think for me, one of the big things too is when you teach your kid about firearms, especially firearm safety, it takes the curiosity out of it, right? So
Yes.
you see all these kids who get in trouble with firearms because they have no idea how to handle it and they're just
Yeah.
curious.
No, that's a great point too, Brian. I've spoken with a lot of people, and they ask, when it comes to locking guns up and stuff, it's like, well, sure, I've got a bunch of stuff locked up, but there are certain stuff I have access to that wouldn't be quite as secure, and it's you teach your children the importance of and the dangers of the firearm, and it like you just said, it takes that curiosity out of it and just kind of becomes a normalcy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys because I remember when I first touched a gun when I was 21 and I was constantly putting my finger on the triggers because they feel cool. I didn't know any firearm safety until I started taking more seriously. So I think that it's good for kids to learn about firearms at an early age so that they don't act too stupid when they see a firearm as an adult. Yeah.
And like kids will still be kids.
Hmm.
So even, as much preparation and foundation you pour into them, at the end of the day, they're still kids. Stuff can happen, but I think it greatly reduces the risk factor of having firearms in the house.
Yeah. And I also believe that if a kid know like the firearm safety, it could help other kids from hurting themselves. So for example, if there's a bunch of kids in a room and they
Mhm.
see a gun, the kid that know about firearm safety will
Right.
tell the other kids to, hey, don't touch it. Let's go get an adult.
Yep.
But then if no one knows anything about gun, I'm obviously the kid would just grab the gun and start pointing at the other kids, and that's when
Right.
bad stuff could happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So how old do you think your child need to be before you start teaching them about firearm safety and training?
For me, I don't think there's an age. I, I don't think age is the most important part of it. I think it's the where you think your child is at maturity
Mm,
wise.
Yep.
If it's something that they can be taught and actually absorb and understand. Just kind of a quick example. So Leo was 7 when we started working on 180 drills, and Kara now, who would be the next shooter in line, is now 8, but she just wasn't quite as mature and ready to absorb the teaching that information as he was. So I I think the maturity of where your child is at is I think has more importance to it than the actual age.
mm.
I agree 100%. I think Levi was about 3, and of course we were not involved in the USPSA. We were hunting, and so it began with a BB gun and a small
Mhm.
single shot little youth 22 rifle, and he just grew up with them. He's never known a
Right.
time when we didn't have a gun. He's always handled guns, and we've always hunted. And because he wasn't, he was I think 15 the first time we went and shot a match someplace. But there have been a lot of gun safety and things before that, before we ever got there.
Sure.
And I think on top of the maturity, it's also the interest as well. Because I have 2 daughters, and my oldest, she's just as mature, obviously, as the youngest one, but she just doesn't have the interest. So, it's one of those things that they don't have that interest. It's harder to teach them the gun safety and actually how to use the gun because they just don't want to listen to you because it's not an interest of theirs. So that's kind of where I'm at. One of them likes it, the other one doesn't really care for it.
Right.
Yeah, I have a daughter too that's 16, and I've had to force her to learn basic gun safety and handling a pistol because you need to know that.
Yep.
She likes
Right.
to shoot, doesn't want anything to do with competition, but she does like to shoot. But it's still not it's been a
And Leo, with being in the girls can be different too. So like with Kara, her maturity now is probably there, but she's still very. It's just it's very I think, intimidating for her, where Leo just being, all boy, it's like, oh shoot, it blows up, it goes bang, that's cool. Let's go.
It's a weapon. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like so for example, this year my son was supposed to start shooting with me, but so my at that time, oh, my son is 8. He just turned 9, but when he was 8, that's when I started training him about, firearm safety and how to operate the gun and everything. And I took him out shooting a few times. He's comfortable with the gun and everything, but I feel like he wasn't mentally mature yet because he still likes to mess around with his siblings and stuff. So
Sure.
yeah, that's why I was like, you know what? I don't think you're actually ready yet because if I take you and your siblings to the match with me and then you have your gun on you and you're gonna be chasing your little brother and sister around, so I was like, maybe next year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. How do you train your child in USPSA specifically?
So when safety being the utmost
Hmm.
importance, the first thing Leo and I did before he even put on the holster, touch the gun, I just set up some boundaries, some drills in the basement, and we just worked on 180 directions for probably 3 months, and we only spent maybe 10, 15 minutes at tops a day, every other day for about 3 months, just really, really getting the reps in on backward movement, left, right, forward, just really being aware of what the 180 actually is. And because if you can't be safe at the range at a shooting match, then it's over. That had to be the highest priority. So we worked on that first, and then just introduced then the next step, just draw to a first shot target kind of thing, reload. So it just kept building upon then what you need to have as a skill set in USPSA.
We went about a little bit differently in that we shot our first match together at the same time. So, I have a friend who is a SWAT instructor, and I had him out to my house. I have a range behind my house here, and he had been teaching us tactical stuff and for quite some time. And my intention of going to a shoot was to put pressure to shoot under pressure when you got nerves and the timer and people watching and stuff, just to see how we would perform in that situation. And guess what? It was fun. And next thing you know, we're buying all the stuff and trying to go every week and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
So it was really a tactical training, and then that went well into the USPSA, and I was very pleased with how safe the matches were and how it was ran. So that's good. I guess that answers that question.
Yeah, and I started my daughter in the garage with some USPSA targets on the wall, and we used an airsoft pistol and an airsoft rifle, and just started going through the movements in the garage, doing the 180, making sure you're not flagging yourself, proper gun handling. And once we started doing that for a little bit, and I felt she got pretty good with the gun, then that's when we actually entered our first USPSA match at Forest Lake.
Damn, Forest Lake, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the only outdoor range that's close to me.
yeah. Yeah, I would assume that you guys, I mean, Brian, you would start at Oakdale or Colin. Where did you guys start? Pips right away?
No. So actually, what I did as a kind of a test run for Leo is we've got an indoor during the off season, winter month. Coyote Creek here in Rochester does just 2-stage indoor matches. And it's not even USPSA. It's pretty much hit factor,
Hmm.
and it's just very low key. There's just a handful of us, and they're people that Leo's comfortable with from Pine Island. So I used those few months during the winter to just kind of test the
Mm.
waters, and then once he did fine through that, then we went right into pips,
Okay.
and he's shooting all of our major pips matches and even stages that I'm designing and stuff that get you get pretty close to level 2 kind of stuff. I don't have a member number for him yet, and he's not going to shoot any majors just yet. I'm going to give that probably another year before I introduce that. But yeah, so used the indoor stuff to just quickly introduce him, and then went right out to pips.
Okay. How nervous was you guys when your kid shot for the first time at a USPSA match?
Really nervous.
Yeah, I was really nervous.
Yeah.
Did you guys RO for them, or
I
was
did.
it someone
Yep.
else? Okay.
Yeah, I let somebody else RO.
Okay. Damn.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
wasn't too nervous because he'd already been shooting in a tactical type of thing. So I knew he
Okay.
was, other than just, I wasn't too worried about him.
Yeah, like for me, I think if my son starts shooting for the first time, I think I will have to RO for him. Like for everyone's safety, if an accident is gonna happen, it will have to be me. But hopefully that doesn't happen. So yeah,
Right.
I will be pretty nervous too. Um,
Being on a squad that either has dads on it or just guys you're comfortable with, that helps too.
mhm.
I was comfortable with the guys ROing Leo. It's like nobody's winning the Cadillac at
Yeah.
these matches. If you need to coach him, just they understood the assignment of that they're a child learning, and the coaching was okay.
All right. So why do you guys choose the division, that specific division for your kid to start off with?
Well,
My
mine
So
just
son,
like the rifle. That's why we did the rifle. The bigger the gun, the better, and that's why she likes my open gun too. So
mm.
she gravitated towards that. She didn't like the standard old Glocks, so she wanted something fancy.
Okay. So Colin, why did you have Leo start with iron sights and in single stack?
sure. So mainly due to his hand size. So
Hmm.
he was able to get onto a couple of my M&Ps, but the problem with the striker fired pistols is he was having to compromise his grip on the back strap a little bit too much to get to the trigger, and the only platform that had the only platform that does have the best trigger are 1911s. So we settled on the Kimber Micro 9mm, which is an absolute um, bitch of a gun to shoot. It's awful, but it was the only thing that he could safely manipulate and not have to compromise grip. And then it also fell into I wanted him to learn some fundamentals on iron sights before moving to a dot. There's a lot of debate on it, but there's just some things that I think a dot doesn't provide you right away that I wanted him to learn on iron sights for a little bit. And now his hands are bigger. I'm going to get him a limited optics setup here for season 2 at Pip. So he has grown out of it, and he's learned what I've wanted him to learn with the iron sights. Single stack provides a lot of reloading, so he really had to be conscious to his stage plans and be zoned in for that stuff. So it provided a lot of teaching opportunity and building upon what the game of USPSA is about. And he can't just watch dad sit there with a 29 30 round open gun and just blast shit, never have to reload.
Yeah. So Shon, you have Levi start with carry optic, right?
No, well, we shot our first match with irons. That's what we had, just a couple of Glock pistols,
Okay.
and then thought the dot was cool. So I think before we even went to we started at Burnsville, and then before we ever went to our first outdoor match, we had put dots on it, which he took to a dot like a fish to water, and it took me forever to figure out how to run a dot. But I think when a guy gets old and your eyes start getting bad, the dot is better for me, anyways.
Well, yeah, the dot arguably is better in every capacity. Even somebody brand new to shooting. Like I said, there was some main. I shot my irons. I use the fiber optic like a dot. So when I went from irons to a dot, there was no difference for me. And there's just some things that I wanted Leo to have down pat, some really good fundamentals. I didn't want the dot to necessarily be assisting him and him perceiving that as maybe he's doing better than he actually is. So I purposefully made it a little harder on him. So having those sights lined up, good grip, good trigger. I wanted those things to happen instead of a dot making it easier for him.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
All right, so here's a hot debate. So, whether they're a kid or not, but just a brand new shooter in general, do you guys think that a dot will make you a better iron shooter, or iron shooter will make you a better dot shooter? In my opinion, I think the dot will make you a better iron shooter because it's much easier to target focus with a dot, right? And then it could easily translate to irons like down the road. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong because I don't really shoot irons as much.
No, I would agree with that. I think the iron sights are really difficult to truly shoot target focused, especially if it's easier. I think if you have a fiber optic front and then blacked out rear, because then you can kind of use that, almost trick yourself that that fiber optic is a dot. But
Hmm.
I would agree with that. It probably does lend it, or it at least teaches the fundamental of target focused sooner and probably more efficiently than just frustrating yourself over trying to do it with iron sights.
Yeah.
What do you guys think, Sean and Brian? What do you guys think?
I still shoot. I mean, the only time I shoot a dot is at a competition. I shoot pistols a lot around the house, and it's almost always with irons. So um, I think I'm faster and more accurate, obviously, with a dot. But a lot of pistols that I carry around here don't have a dot on them, so I'm still shooting irons. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm just horrible with iron sights regardless. So I don't know if that's a good metric. So yeah, I shoot probably 99% with a dot. When I first started shooting about 2 years ago, I was using irons and I just couldn't hit a target to save my life. But then once the dot got used to it, I was perfectly fine.
Mm.
Do you guys think a PCC will make it easier for your kid to become a better shooter or like just learn how to shoot better since it's more like a rifle and there will be less recoil compared to a pistol? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, my daughter took the PCC just like instantly. I mean, there was hardly a learning curve with that. Really, her biggest learning curve was more the staves. Trying to move around with a rifle. But as far as shooting, she could pick that up right away. So I think that was really beneficial for her. Now she can pick up pretty much any pistol, and she knows the fundamentals of the fit. Just the shooting fundamentals. So I think that's helped her with the pistol as well for some reason.
Okay.
I think the PCC is probably very much less intimidating because of
Hmm.
the lack of recoil. So that probably would help a kid maybe be a little more interested in it. That they're not, they don't have this flailing handgun
Yeah.
wanting to fly out of their hands every time they shoot it. I'm an old school dad sometimes and kind of a jerk. So it was like, Leo, this is going to make you a better shooter and you'll be able to grip the gun better.
Well, I had Levi shooting rifles from the time he was a little guy, so he was, I don't know, probably 10 or 11 before I give him a 22 pistol to shoot. So the rifle was easy for him to. He learned on a rifle, learned to
Mm.
shoot, and learned firearm safety on a rifle.
Don't you guys feel like the rifle is a little bit too big, especially if your kid is like only like under 10? Because I feel like when I give my AR-15 to my son, I feel like the gun is still a little bit too big for him. So he has a hard time like actually bringing the gun up to the target. So that's why I have him starting with handgun instead of like a rifle until he gets taller. Then I will have him start shooting rifles.
I mean, I built a 10-inch AT3 tactical 9 lightweight AR for Kara, so something
Mm.
shorter that she could manage. Um, so yeah, if it's a full size, it's probably true. But if you built something a little bit more purpose intended, short little 9 millimeter just to help out with that overall end of the muzzle weight and just make it to where the gun's not taller than they are.
So pretty much you're talking about SBR then.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Doing the 9 millimeter
yeah.
SBR.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I don't want to do all those paperwork, with the ATF and stuff. So I never got into like the short barrel stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully soon it
Uh,
won't be a thing.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. All right. Do you guys think USPSA or just competitive shooting sport is a lonely sport for your kid?
Is the only sport?
It's a lonely sport.
Oh, a lonely sport? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Leo, there's nobody his age, until maybe your
Yeah.
son starts shooting pips. There's nobody Leo's age they're shooting. He's just with a bunch of crotchety old guys who, are talking politics and that kind of stuff. But I think it can be lonely in that regard, but he has fun with it, loves doing the burgers and stuff afterwards, and
Hmm.
I plan on, I think once you can get him involved in more of the major matches, um, maybe where there's other juniors, that might change, but it's yeah, it's a lonely sport. There's no interactions for him with any other kids.
Yeah. In that sense, I would say it is for sure. I said, was thinking about it, thought, well, yes and no. I mean, there obviously aren't any of the kids there where we were shooting. Wasn't any. Uh,
Right.
but it also teaches them to interact with adults, which
Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's not a bad thing.
Hmm.
right.
And I think it's even more so. It seems more lonely for a girl, because my
Mm.
daughter doesn't have. There's no other girls, and we try to gravitate towards squads that had female shooters in it for a while, so that she could actually see and kind of look up to a female shooter that's an adult. But then once we started getting more involved into it, we started squadding with the same type of people, and then those people became friends. So now she has adult male friends that she shoots with, and she talks crap with them now whenever she beats them on a stage. So I think it's at the beginning it's really lonely, but at the same time, to your point, I think they start developing that skills of working in competing with adults and start getting used to it. So it's just that little hump I think they have to get over.
Mm. So Brian, so since you have a daughter in the sport, do you think it's hard to train a female in shooting? Because so for example, like I mean, I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but like, just, male will move differently compared to female. So since you're the father, was it hard to train your daughter to shoot the way you shoot or no?
I think there's a little bit to that. I think strength is a big thing,
Hmm.
right? For especially since she's shooting the PCC, it's harder for her to move around with that rifle, right?
Mm.
So I think that's part of it. Where a boy the same size is generally a little bit stronger. But to your point too, this was a completely foreign type of sport for her, and so running with a gun is one of those things where kids don't really necessarily feel comfortable doing, especially having the risk of it going off when they're running with it. So it's I think it's a little bit slower. I don't have a boy to compare it to, but from what I've seen, it took her a while. I'd say it probably took her maybe 6 months before she felt comfortable actually running. Before she would just kind of walk through one shooting position to another.
Mm. Okay. All right. How do you guys discipline your child when it comes to shooting?
Hmm.
Like if they did something wrong or.
Or like how do you like just make sure that you keep them in check, like to make sure that all right, don't be stupid, don't act reckless. Or how do you guys make sure that they stay disciplined with the firearm safety and stuff.
Yeah, I try to address it as soon as I see it, right? Instead of waiting for it to reoccur. If I see something where she's leaning towards, let's say, trigger discipline, right?
Hmm.
Of keeping the finger on the trigger, I'll say it at the beginning, right? And just keep reaffirming it. Because I think one of the things, especially for kids, is if you come down on them, they're less likely to continue working on that, right? They're just going to say, well, forget it. And
Mm,
so for me, it's more of an encouragement as opposed to a discipline. Just
mm,
saying, okay, remember your finger. Don't put it on the trigger until you're ready to shoot it. Make sure you're not pointing at something that you don't want to destroy, right? Those types of things. I just keep doing that very gently just to make sure
mm.
that they feel comfortable about having that type of message reiterated multiple times.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that I would agree with Brian on that. And then, I don't know if you meant it in the terms of if like you find that they're becoming a little bit unfocused or distracted
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
the match.
Yep.
I've noticed Leo has had that a couple times, and I've just told him it's like, hey, if you don't think you can devote your attention and focus to this, just we'll take the gun off and you don't need to shoot the rest of the night. Or otherwise you need to focus up here because we're shooting and you've got to stay in that mode of it's fun what we're doing, but it also bad things could happen. You
Hmm.
need to be safe, and if you're not going to devote your mental ability, if you're not going to devote your attention to do that, then you got to put it away because you can't put other people's safety at risk here. And he's always like immediately just snapped right out and kind of hunkered down and focused.
I guess that's never been really an issue with Levi per se at the matches. Both he and his sister, since we were hunters or are hunters, they learned early on what happens when you pull the trigger, pointing at
Yeah.
something. It dies, and I made a point to show them that very young when we were just introducing them to shooting. We were shooting some prairie dogs or something. Hey, let's go look and see what happens when you shoot something. This is not a toy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
The seriousness of what a gun can do should not be, in my opinion, should be very scary. I mean,
Yes.
it's scary what could happen, if what bad could happen on the receiving end of a mistake.
yeah, sorting out that it's not a toy. Yes, it's fun,
Yeah.
but it's not a
Yep.
toy.
Yep.
Yeah, like when I train my son, whether it's dry fire or not, I always constantly remind him that yes, the sport is fun, shooting is fun, but it's very dangerous. One little mistake could lead you or me to prison. So you have to take gun safety very serious. And like since my kid is only like 9, I have to constantly remind him. And I wouldn't say try to scare him, but try to warn him. I guess I am kind of trying to scare him in a way so that he would be more cautious of his movement and his trigger finger and everything. So yeah, I was just wondering if you guys like constantly remind your kids to like be safe, especially during a match.
It's not too bad, but there might be a couple times, that you just say, hey, you need to focus here and pay attention to what we're doing and get your head in the game.
Yeah.
Early on, before we started shooting matches, it was a constant reminding him and
Reminder. Okay.
keep your
Yeah, and
finger.
I think for me, it's really when we do our walkthrough on the stage, it's really about, hey, careful of this angle here, right? Don't break the 180. Figure out what your plan is so that you're being safe and not trying to take risks.
Yeah.
How patient do you guys think you guys have to be to teach a child about firearms in general?
Very.
Yeah.
Because I see myself yelling at my son sometime when he does something stupid, and I'm like, oh shit, I need to like take a step back and maybe be more calm because I don't want to like scare him away like from learning it. You know what I mean? So I do catch myself sometimes like no, I wouldn't say yelling, but like coming off a little bit too aggressive. Um, I forget that he's a child, not a adult. You know what I mean? So yeah.
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 I think that goes into that maturity thing that we talked about earlier, though.
Yeah.
Right? Who, if they're really in that frame of mind where they can absorb that information you're trying to teach them, I think that's the critical piece.
Yes, that is correct. What is your child's shooting schedule like? Since they still, well, now school is over. I'm not sure if your kids are still going to school, but during school time, what was their shooting schedule like and training?
Well, Levi was homeschooled. He just graduated from high school, but he was homeschooled, so he's always been free to shoot when he wants, within reason and within ammo availability. Because he will shoot way more than, and lots of times it's just messing around too. So you got to kind of guide him in the right direction. We're just not going to go do mag dumps in the berm, for fun.
Right.
Yeah, for my daughter, it's pretty challenging, right? Because during school, she still had school, gymnastics. We try to do every MAPS a weekend. We would do the Wednesdays Minnetonka Game and Fish, and then during the winters we'd hit up Total Defense, and then we'd also do the Chanhassen. So we were shooting every week and trying to balance that between her gymnastics and school.
What about you, Colin?
Yeah, Leo and I were shooting every week. We shoot every Wednesday night, Pine Island, and then during the winter months, do the local indoor range did every Wednesday nights there too. So we're shooting every night. We have a homeschooling program that we do with the kids. So there's some flexibility there, but we try to keep that on a strict schedule. And he's the oldest right now, so it's probably a little bit easier for us to manage that just because we don't have multiple older ones where it's pulling interests in different directions.
Do you guys have like a set schedule for your kid to dry fire or no?
No.
Nope.
I should, but I don't.
I try to, the minimum I try to have Leo do is 2 nights a week. Just minimum. And again, and actually me teaching him has forced me to have to dry fire. So ultimately, hopefully I'm getting a little bit better because of this. So we try to do it together again, because I don't want him, he knows he can't just go downstairs and get into stuff by himself without being told go dry fire. But I think it's still smart of me to do it with him. 'Cause now I'm dry firing too, but then I'm also making sure that he's still being safe, and it's not just, I don't want that familiarity to breed contempt and it just become, to give him too much access to that stuff. So we try to do that 10 to 15 minutes. Even I only do it about 10, 15 minutes. Try to do minimum 2 nights a week.
Yeah, I've tried to encourage Levi to do that because I have definitely seen my improvement in myself by doing that. But and just explain to him that, hey, you know what? You're going to hit a plateau and you're going to have to do something more than just to the match.
Yep.
Shoot. So, but I'm also not going to rail on him about it. If he wants to, this is just a game, just for fun. So if he wants to improve further, he'll have to put some effort into it.
Got to train for that Supervel sponsor.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like you guys have a better bond with your kid now that your kid is shooting USPSA with you guys?
I do, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been close and done things together, but for sure, I mean, it's the going to the matches is important to me because I get to go with him.
Yeah.
It is important if it was just me. Not that I don't like those guys. I've made great friends at these matches, but the driving factor for me is to go do something with my kid, for sure.
Yeah, no, but it is. There's, as they both said, there's just an element of and it's good quality time, I think, with your kid. There's a lot of downtime when you're not the shooter that we're talking,
Mm.
interacting, and doing things while we're pasting targets, waiting, resetting stages. It's actually quite sickening when you look at how much you actually shot versus how much time you spent. But
Yeah.
don't do that. Then you won't want to shoot this sport. But no, it's good time to be able to talk about things, and we talk about a lot of stage stuff. I'm pretty much at the point with Leo that I let him develop his stage plan first, and then we get to talk about it. And I'll
Mm.
kind of probe around and ask him, well, why'd you want to go that way? Or so it just keeps us interacting, and it's just something that we can do together and grow together.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Colin. Like, that's why I want my son to start shooting with me because I will admit I am a pretty boring father. Not saying that I'm not involved in their life, but shooting is the only hobby that I have and could afford. So, um, so like for example, if my son want to play video games, right? I don't want to play video games with him, you know what I mean? Because it's just not my thing. So I'm kind of forcing him to do the sport with me so that me him could build a bond together. So yeah, so I'm excited for my son to start shooting with me next year, or maybe later down the year. So yeah, because
Yeah,
that I
maybe
felt
there's some
yeah.
indoor stuff, maybe there's some indoor stuff that you guys can tap into this year to kind of test the waters if outdoor, because the difficulty from indoor to outdoor just
Yeah.
it increases greatly. And that's kind of where I thought the indoor stuff was a good little just test the waters, see if they're ready, something you need to work on.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. I was thinking about Burnsville or even Oakdale if my son is ready. Like close to the end of the year, or if Oakdale is still hosting matches by that time. So yeah. Um, let's see. The next question is, what are the challenges with involving your child in practical shooting?
I think safety and keeping that mental composure to be safe and be paying attention at all times.
Yeah, I would agree. Safety and um, for us, cost because you're buying twice of everything, two guns,
Superville, if you're watching this,
Yeah.
twice. And then then as I was just thinking about that, there was a little bit of family, not on my side, on my wife's side, that were kind of shocked that I would take my son, who
Mm,
was 15 at the time, and involve him with, and of course they knew I'm a redneck, so he'd already been around guns his whole life, but that was different, because the targets are silhouette shaped, and so there was a little bit of explaining to do there. Not that I give that a lot of credence, but
yeah, I know. I hate when people bring up that about the sport that they're silhouette shaped.
yeah,
Yeah. For me, the toughest thing was really about having to shield my daughter's shooting from all her friends and my friends, my wife's friends, more or less, that are not quite as accepting of guns. And so it's one of those things where you have to be careful about other parents of kids saying, well, hey, that kid shoots guns, and what kind of craziness is going on in that family. So that's the thing I've been really cautious about. So when I started filming originally, I would hide all my videos so that they're unlisted, so nobody could find them unless they had the link to those videos. But now she's getting to the point where everybody knows that she shoots, so now I make those ones public, and I created a YouTube channel just for that. So but that was one of the challenges, is how trying to be really delicate with her friends and her parents, or the friends of her parents, or parents of her friends, because there's so many anti-gun people out there, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah,
it makes it really challenging, because I once had a video of her at the range when she was 11 years old, we were just sitting, in a lane. I was teaching her how to shoot a 22, and that video got flagged, and basically I got a strike for that, just for her in a range being taught how to shoot. So
Sure. No, that's a good point, Brian. I guess I forgot, I should mention, like, my wife and I did tell Leo too, with his friends, it's like you can't just go and tell, you can't just be going out telling everybody like, Dad lets me hold guns and shoot, and I'm running around the basement with the gun. You can't go and tell people that, because people won't understand what you're actually doing. And yeah, that's an element that I agree with.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I was gonna ask you guys about that question, but you guys answered already. So, yeah, I think that's definitely a challenge because, being a boy, you want to share the amazing story, like, oh, to your friends, like, yeah, dude, I just shot this gun last week, and it was very hard for a boy not to tell their friends about all the shooting that they did. So, um, yeah, it's kind of sad that we have to tell our kids to keep it to themselves. And I think, yeah, I think that's pretty sad.
Especially something they're excited about.
Hmm.
And it's probably more so for that it's the other kids' parents that would cause the
yep.
problem.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
it's not so, it's kind of more so, that I mean, thankfully the adults we interact with and their kids, they know me, they knew that I did that kind of stuff, but it's just, it's just, I think, help teaching them that prudence of, you don't need to tell everybody anything about what you do all the time.
Hmm. All right,
Yeah.
little bit off topic, but do you guys know if there's like a law in the United States where it's saying that a kid has to be at a certain age before they start shooting?
I'm not aware of any federal laws. I think there are some states that have something similar to that.
Hmm.
I don't believe there's anything on the federal level. I think most states are pretty similar, just in the terms of there has to be an adult supervision. The child can't own the firearm, can't be left with it. It's the adult needs to be the one supervising the activity.
Yeah, I don't know of any.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's one of the thing that I am kind of scared about, like having my son start doing shooting sports, because of the people, the adults that will be judging him, and if he was to find out about what people will say about him, then that will make him not want to shoot more. You know what I mean? So I think we need to like change that. Yeah, but
Yeah, maybe the tide's changing a little bit. I mean, there's gun sales are up and permits to carry are way up, and
but
it's
you
just
also got there's also a difference between gun owner and pro Second Amendment though.
yeah.
Oh, huge! Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not the same. They're not the same person.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
always.
yeah. So yeah, that is one of my fear of having my son start shooting USPSA. But seeing you guys do it, so I'd be like, okay, maybe it's not gonna be that bad then. All right.
I think it's better because we're all, if we're shooting USPSA, we are very much surrounded by at least like-minded people
Hmm.
on the shooting sport. So
Yeah.
I think that's why that it's easier to probably get into that. You're with a lot of like-minded good people.
I would agree.
Yeah, and I think emphasizing the sport of it as opposed to the guns themselves is a big thing too, right? Because then now it's an activity as opposed to just topic of guns.
Yeah.
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 All right. We're down to our last two questions. So, the question is there a different perspective when it comes to a girl and a boy, in the shooting sport?
Hmm. Well, I have one of each, and my daughter likes to shoot, but is wants no part of competition of any kind, really. It doesn't really make any difference what it is. Don't want to compete. Sometimes I can bait her a little bit by saying, well, you never know, you might be able to beat your brother, and that will spur her on a little bit. But she's just not that into it. And I think it's a difference, maybe more of personalities than it is boy girl thing. I don't know, though. I mean, that's an opinion.
Yeah, I would agree that it's probably more of a personality thing than a boy or girl thing. I've got two boys, two girls, but Kara's interest in the sport is she's interested in it, but it's just she's much more timid towards it, and maybe that's a little bit more where the girl, I guess, side could play into it. Is it's just not, it's boys just want to blow stuff up,
Yeah.
drive fast cars, blow stuff up, and and she wants to push stroller, play kitchen, and play with her baby dolls. So there's a little bit maybe of that, but I think it's just more of an interest base. If it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not.
Yeah, and I kind of look at it too as somewhat of marketing because this isn't really marketed towards girls. That's the other thing. If you look at a lot of advertisements of anything related to competition, the majority of it's all boys and men, right? And now you're starting to get a little bit more females involved in it. But I think that's where we're not reaching a lot of the girls at a younger age, and that's probably the challenging piece from my perspective.
That is true.
I'm hoping to be able to encourage my daughter to do it because, man, I'd like to have both of them there shooting.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
If if they're and it's growing a little bit, the female popular, at least the female side of USPSA is growing a little bit, but I think if it were a little more popular, or even on Wednesday nights, I don't think it would have to necessarily be another little girl for Kara to be more interested. Even if there was just more adult females, that would probably be maybe a little bit more interesting for her. So hopefully as time goes on, that will just continue to grow. Or it's like I've told her, it's like, hey, you could be one of the pioneers here and one of the founding, trendsetters for a new sport.
Yeah, 100%.
How does your guy's wife feel about your kids shooting? Is your wife cool about it?
She was very nervous at first, um, maybe more nervous just in the sense that since she doesn't do it herself, she doesn't have as much just what entails and what goes on into shooting the sport. So, and it was just that nervousness of they're little, are they ready? Are they going to be safe? A lot of what we worry about, but since we're the ones predominantly training them, we're seeing that progress of, yes, they're going to be safe. They're doing fine. They're showing signs of good. They're taking the information in. So, but initially she was very nervous. She's much better about it now.
It wasn't really an issue with my wife. Her dad, my father-in-law, was a competition trap shooter, so she grew up with him to a match once a week.
Yeah.
Just something a little different, but she, I guess, kind of expected it from us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little bit different perspective. With the daughter, I think my wife is fine with us getting into it. What I think is becoming more of a problem is the amount of time that we're doing it, because then it takes away from the mother-daughter relationship, right? When it's now daughter-father. And I would see that as being kind of more of the challenge as opposed to her actually doing it just for
So
the
we
sake
got to
of it.
get our wives to start doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I tell my wife. Well, you just got to start doing it now.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
great.
So now the question is, how how do we encourage our wife to get into shooting? It doesn't have to be competition, but just in training in general. Because I have a very hard time getting my wife to the range. Like I have to force her to the point where I got tired, so I don't care anymore. So how do you guys encourage your wife to train?
Hmm.
Or how would you guys encourage your wife to train?
Well, cool. I think I'm in the same boat as you, so I can't answer that.
My my wife's family didn't necessarily grow up around firearms as much as I did, but they were a farm family. They had guns. It was more of like a hunting background than it was like you shot guns for fun. They shot them for to hunt, and that was it. But I think for right now, with how little the kids are, her that's mainly why she's not doing it. Her interest in it would be different if the kids weren't as little. Um, but it's a at least for mine and my wife in particular, just I think the thought of having to use something to potentially harm or take someone's life was harder for her to comprehend. um, and I basically just pitched it to her. It's like if I'm not around you, it's your responsibility. You have to be available to protect our children. Like there's no you can't leave that up to chance, or hopefully somebody around might be able to, or you can't wait for any type of law enforcement response. So it's your duty when I'm not around to also be able to protect our kids. And it's fine if you don't want to compete or anything like that yet for various reasons, but kind of going back to there's a very I think there needs to be a very basic understanding of the firearms, and you've got to be able to protect this family from anything.
Yeah, that's a great argument. Mine's just not interested. She had a concealed carry permit for a while, and no amount of my nagging would get her out there and using it. And then I thought, well, you might more dangerous having one if you don't know how to use it than
Yeah.
Yeah,
not
Yep.
having. So just don't renew your permit if you're not interested at all.
you need to buy an expensive open gun, because then she's interested in why that stupid thing costs so much money that she's like, I've got to shoot this. That's one of the ways I got her out. She was just like, why did this thing cost as much? I was like, well, you got to shoot it then. I got to show you.
You got to see. That's a great.
Yeah, yeah. This is why it costs so much money.
Yeah, Colin, I definitely agree with you because I do go over those stuff with my wife. Like, I tell her that, I'm not always home. And it is your responsibility to protect the kids when I'm not around.
Yeah.
But somehow, man, I don't know, man, it just doesn't click to my wife's head, man. Like she does know how to do the basic operating and stuff, but
Right.
I don't know, man. Like I still,
I've tried to
yeah,
encourage her to get a couple ladies that we go to church with, and it's like you guys should just go to the indoor range where they know me, so they're gonna know you guys, and just have a ladies' night or something. And I think sometimes it can be, it's not that there. We all have it, it's your dad can give you advice and tell you to stop doing something, but then when a stranger tells you, it's like, oh my gosh, revelation, there was some magic here.
yeah,
I think I think there's just a little bit for my wife of like, I don't want you know Colin to tell me, because he's a good shooter in her eyes, and then it's just like, well, I'm not going to be as good as that. So it
mm,
it also helps just letting other people that aren't you or myself tell her, you know,
yeah, that
hey,
makes
we should
sense.
we should do this, or and thankfully there's a couple other moms that we go to church with that their wives are also in the same boat. So a couple of the dads and I have said, hey, I'm going to tell your wife that why they need to be good with guns, and you tell mine. Then it's not the husbands telling them.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot. Like when it's the husband telling the wife don't want to listen. But if someone else tells them, then they want to listen.
A
Yeah,
whole nother
Called
podcast.
marriage.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
We do love them. If they're watching this,
Yeah.
we do love you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we're down to our last question. How do we introduce more kids to the sport that are not our kids? What are ways that we could help educate the like other kids and encourage them to train and try out the sport?
Well, what I did is
Go ahead, Brian. Or go ahead.
I built a range out here behind my house, and of course built some walls and got some barrels and set up where we could set up stages, and then I had Levi invite two of his buddies over, who's I knew their dads were at least hunters, so they were had gun safety and stuff, and then we just set up very simple courses and RO'd them, ran through gun safety and ran some, and they loved it. And now one of them is coming every week to Oakdale with us, and the other one is wanting to, just hasn't got a rig set up yet. So
Yeah, that's that's I pondered on this question a lot, and I think just because of Leo's age, Leo's age right now, um, in order for me to introduce kids to the sport, I would have to be, I mean, I would have to be taking on very young kinds of shooters. So for me, I'm more in a spot. How can I get their dads interested to maybe
Hmm.
want to bring their kids interested? Just because with how little they are, it's like, oh, I don't have the time to teach everybody's kids Leo's age how to properly shoot. But like the Pine Island Gun Club is only a mile down the road from where we go to church. So sometimes after mass, I'll have some 22s or things that are easy for people to shoot. And I'll invite the dad, and it's like, hey, you should bring, let's just pop over there after church, and you can bring your boys, and we'll shoot that way.
that's a great idea.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you, Colin. I think you get to kind of win over the parents first, right?
Hmm.
Because
Yes.
the last thing you want to do is trying to convince a kid, and the kid goes to their parents, and then all hell breaks loose, right?
Yeah.
Right?
So,
Yeah. So I guess it's not a kid issue. It's more like a parent issue.
Yeah.
yeah, because
Yeah.
nobody wants their kid to be influenced by another kid,
Yeah.
right? Without you knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think, I think to be honest, okay, so kind of off topic, but I don't think kids are against guns. I think it's parents that are against guns. So they kind of like scare the kids away from guns. And I think that's,
It's a taught mindset.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
It's a taught mindset. Unless it was something traumatic that happened,
Hmm.
it's 99% of the time it's a taught mindset to hate guns. Yeah, that just is. Hating guns is like a kid saying they hate fireworks. No kid says that.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so maybe I think one thing that we could do as a shooting community is do more like free education videos and talk about firearm safety and just hopefully kids will just watch it and that will encourage them to be more interested in learning about guns and learning about the sports and stuff. But at the end of the day, I feel like it still falls down to your parents because even if the kids are into it, the parents still have to, like it's up to the parents to buy them a gun or not, or allow them or take them to the match or not. So yeah, it's very hard. So I think that's one of the main reasons why we don't see a lot of junior shooters, um, because you know the parents are not into it. So like you said, Brian, we have to win over the parents first. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's in some areas, especially in Minnesota, there's a lot of people that it's taboo to talk about. I mean, I own a funeral home, and I try to, it's like I don't always try. I try to actually sometimes keep it on the down low. That's why my Instagram doesn't even have my name on it, because I don't want people in the community to be able to connect the two and then try to turn it into something bad that it's not.
Yeah.
But because they have this misguided understanding of firearms, they'll turn it into that. So I mean, just being talking about it more, not treating it like a taboo subject
Hmm.
can help too. And when sometimes people ask me what do I do for fun, it's like, oh, I compete with pistols, and we have fun. There's a lot of people that do it. It's a national organization, and then you get to show them a couple videos, and then and then it's kind of like a very soft approach. And when I treat it like it's a game, because I think more what turns people off, and sorry if I'm rambling here, I think more what turns people off is not really the firearm and you having fun with it. It's the whole, oh, well, you just want to own them to, shoot people or,
Yeah.
rebel against a government or something. It's like they just lump everything into the 2A, which, you know, if you're a firearms owner, you should be 2A, but everybody should be 2A regardless if you're a
Yeah.
firearms owner. But it's just when I've introduced it more from a game mindset and that this is a hobby, it's received a little bit differently, because then they're not just thinking it's like, oh, here's another wired earp cowboy carrying a gun on his hip, concealed carry, thinking he's, Billy Badass and he's going to, stop a robbery.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought a good point because that remind me of Lucas Bakken from, I mean, he used to be in T-Rex Arm, but not anymore. But when he first came out on Instagram and he was wearing body plates and stuff, and that wasn't the norm, but he
Yeah,
did it so much to the point where now it's the norm for civilians to wear body plates and stuff. So I guess
right.
we just as a community, we just gotta just keep posting videos regardless if we get negative feedback or not. But and eventually people will get interested and get involved in the community.
It's a lot of fun. The sport proves that it can be done very safely.
Hmm.
And there's just there's not a lot of what gun laws that we face even here in Minnesota would kill all of our abilities to do what we have fun doing with our kids.
Yeah. I would say too that Levi's 18 now, so it doesn't really apply. But when we first started, everywhere we went and shot, everyone was very friendly, welcoming, and helping
Yeah.
of of the him as a kid.
Hmm.
It's just really, really good, I thought. Sucked me in right away because of that.
Yep.
All right. Anything else you guys want to say or add on before we end this podcast?
Great discussion. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks,
So,
Coop.
well, before you guys leave, for the viewers, where can they find you guys if they want to look up you guys, or if you guys have any social media? Because some of my guests don't actually have social media.
Oh no.
I just have YouTube and Instagram only for my shooting stuff. That's
Hmm.
all I share on those, and it's just Tactical Mortician is what it's called. So I don't have my personal name associated with it. So if you'd want to find them, you gotta search Tactical Mortician.
Yeah, I'm not a big social media guy. I got a Facebook page. That's about it.
So, yeah, cool. As I mentioned before, I started a YouTube channel with the
Hmm.
group of guys that I started competing with. So, our YouTube channel is MN-Practical Space Shooters. And so, if you ever squad with me, I typically start filming you. And if you want to make a reel, I'll compile the video and you'll be up on our channel. But yeah, so anybody who wants to shoot with me in this group and get filmed, I'll be happy to film you and then post a video for you. So.
All right, sounds good. I will post all those links in the description. Well, with that being said, hey man, I appreciate you guys coming on and talk with me tonight. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a good
Thank you. I
topic.
appreciate it.
Great.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording right now.